Hey everyone, Jared here, co-host of the Away from the Rink podcast. Before you dive into today's episode, I just want to lay a few quick things on the table. We believe these conversations are important, but they can include strong themes and language that might be triggering for some listeners. We're also not medical professionals, therapists, or doctors, and any resources mentioned in the episode can be found in the episode notes. The opinions shared by our guests are those of their own and don't necessarily reflect the views of this podcast. If you or someone you know is struggling, please check the resources in the show notes or feel free to reach out to us at afterpodcastofficial@gmail.com and we'll do our best to help point you in the right direction. Please take care while listening, and thanks so much for being here. Now let's get to it.
Here we go, baby. Here we go. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 3 after Away from the Rink podcast. Got a pretty big announcement. Got a new co-host. I'm sure most of you guys listened to episode 1 with Giovanni Flaminio. Gio, welcome to After Away from the Rink podcast, man. Happy to have you on, brother.
Hey, thanks, Deej. Really appreciate the opportunity, man, and look forward to carrying on these conversations, these much-needed ones, right?
Yeah, and it's good. I'm a strong believer, like I always say on these podcasts, that it's good having guys with lived experience, guys who have played elite level hockey that, could shed some light on something that we wish we would have done back in the day when we were struggling. And we always have those conversations, right, of we didn't have anything, we didn't have any mental health, coaches, performance coaches. Maybe there were out there, man. I don't know. I know there wasn't when I was playing. I know we had one in Everett, but stigma.
Yeah, for sure. And that stigma is still prevalent in today's hockey. It's gotten better, I think. And you're right, man. There was maybe one occasion at like a summer camp where there was a sports psychologist on hand. Only opportunity I had coming through, minor and junior hockey where there was an option to speak to someone, right? Outside of family or coaches. But we just didn't, right?
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's, being an athlete, being a man in general. We got to be the alphas. That's the shame, the guilt. What's our buddies going to say? You know what I mean? And the funny thing is, not even funny, but the real thing is, I know back when we partied, man, you either had to get blackout drunk, you get 7 or 8 guys and you go and you guys aren't talking about any real shit. Not talking about how this guy's having a shitty day. He's not bringing it up, right? But the guys that get blackout drunk, maybe they'll start bringing it up. Maybe something about their life, but fuck, who remembers the next day, right? So it's the mental health. It's the stigma in talking. It's everything to do, especially being an athlete. And this is why After Away from the Rink podcast is why it was born, right? We want to bring on former athletes, current athletes, first responders, you name it, people to come on and share their lived experiences. Not necessarily guys who have been through drugs and alcohol, but's been through it. That's played that hockey, played that sport, dealt with adversities. And this is for people to listen and know that they're not alone. Very excited to bring on this gentleman. I don't know him personally, but by looking at his hockey DB and Gio being one of his buddies, I'm just excited to have him on. A guy that not necessarily has been through the drugs and alcohol, but adversities. He was a pretty good hockey player and now a father of 4. Marco Cefalo, correct me if I do that wrong, but I told Gio before this episode, man, that's one of the cooler names, Italian. I absolutely love it. But born and raised in Winnipeg, Manitoba, was a standout hockey player from the start. After playing minor hockey at home, he spent a season with the Estevan Bruins in the Saskatchewan Junior A Hockey League before heading to the WHL. Over 4 years, he suited up with the Portland Winterhawks, Prince Albert Raiders, Medicine Hat Tigers, and the Saskatoon Blades. He finished his junior career back in Estevan with an unbelievable season, tucking 40 goals, 24 assists, and a whopping 258 penalty minutes before signing a pro contract with the Oklahoma City Blazers, where he won a championship in 2000 and 2001 season. Now a proud dad of 4, Marco lives in Edmond, Oklahoma with his wife, Jen. Marco, we like to start this podcast, man. How are you doing today, brother?
Fresh off of a awesome game that we all got to enjoy this morning. Obviously, the outcome for some of us wasn't what we wanted, but I'm doing great, man. I'm down here living in Oklahoma, just north of Oklahoma City, and I couldn't be more blessed in my life. I've like you said, I played some hockey in a lot of places. Drugs and alcohol were no stranger to me. And maybe I didn't fall down the addiction trail quite as hard as some guys, but that doesn't mean that there wasn't challenges and temptation and mistakes and poor choices. All that followed and played a toll in where I ended up. But as of today, man, what more could I ask for, man? I got 4 beautiful kids, a beautiful wife, a great life, good friends. Had to cut a few out, but that's just life. I'm living the dream down here.
No, we love to hear that, Marco. So you're living in Edmond, Oklahoma right now, born in Manitoba. Now, is she American, or how is that household for the big game this morning?
The wife's American. All the kids are American. So I'm a lone wolf up there, but I always tell the boys because typically this kind of works out in Canada's favor. So I'm always telling the boys and the wife, and there is no loss in this house for us. But today I fucking lost.
Yeah. I know, and it was devastating. I thought Canada was a better team. Full 60 minutes. Obviously, US they capitalized on their scoring chances, and fucking Hellebuck, hey, he kind of stole a show this morning. It was
Helly's, I always call him Leaky in the playoffs for us here in Winnipeg, but he's my guy. I've always said that if he's standing on his head, he's going to be hard to beat. He made a couple incredible saves today. The boys missed a few empty nets. Celebrini just couldn't get one past him, and I mean the guy made 41 saves today against that Team Canada. Unbelievable performance, and hats off to him and the Americans, man. I mean, and then the class to bring out Johnny Hockey's jersey on the ice and still rep him and let everybody know that he's not far from their hearts, and classy, real classy, and but fuck me.
Yeah,
I know.
I think it's like it's crazy how it's such a rivalry, right? And people, it's unfortunate some people turn it into country versus country in this division, and at the end of the day, like you and I were talking, Marco, like hockey was the real winner today. What an unbelievable game. Respect for the Americans. I mean, to only surrender 1 goal against that elite, arguably the best Canadian hockey team ever assembled, right? Incredible stuff. And disappointing, but at the same time, happy for that team, and just a great Olympic tournament.
Yeah, no, it's huge. I think obviously that game, everyone, wonder how many people are watching, listening to that game, but it's just so good seeing the best on best again. It's been forever. Some of those guys, that was their first run at it, and they're 20, 25, 26 years old. So it's good. I just hopefully Sid and Ovi, hopefully Russia somehow gets back into the Olympics, but it might be Sid's last run at it. Because how old will he be in 4 years?
I think 43, if I had to guess. Yeah, I mean, different game. He's like you said, Marco, when we spoke earlier, like capable of if anyone can do it, it's him, and just with the fitness and commitment level. But again, that's an older age, right? So I don't know, might be his last run, but would love to see him back.
Yeah, no, 100%. So Marco, you grew up in Winnipeg, Manitoba, playing probably your minor hockey in Manitoba. So how was it for you? Were you one of those guys who is natural talent, a guy who made most of his AA teams? Or are you one of those guys who started with adversities growing up with minor hockey?
I mean, honestly, I made every minor hockey league team I played for, but I think I was probably the last one to make the team. Big guy, not a great skater at the time because I was a big guy and bigger than everybody else. You struggle with coordination. You struggle with speed. The little guys are just flying around. You're chopping them. You're in the box a lot. So you gotta get up on your ass and get going. But I made every minor league team I tried out for. But like I said, I was probably cut, or I was probably the last to make the team. And they were probably like, well, we probably don't want to play against him. He'll probably make it somewhere else. So maybe we ought to just stick him on the squad here, see what happens. But over time, I just kept working, kept going to power skating schools and a lot of places where it would help me developed my agility, and pretty quick there after I turned about 15, shit started to come together real fast. All of a sudden, I was a force.
Yeah.
And guys I get a lot of extra room out there, especially in the old game. You run over a lot of fucking dudes and not
Yeah.
get any penalties. And in the old game, it was really touted for me and the way I played. Um, but yeah, and you know, I had that junior career. I started out in Prince Albert there, and you know, things kind of took off from there.
Yeah, no, I loved how you said you were always the bigger kid growing up. Now, a couple questions on you for that. Did you have hands? Like, were you one of those kids where people were just scared of you and you kind of had that extra ice, or did you kind of have all that, the hands, the feet? And because you kind of said you had everything when you were getting up there in the age group of midget and stuff, that's kind of when stuff took off for you. There's a lot of stuff that you had to work on when you were a kid, or was it that naturally came to you?
So I had to work on every bit of it, and
Yeah.
you know, being a big kid and being behind. I mean, my favorite player was Stevie Y. You know, and I ended up being a fighter. I ended up fighting. I don't know how many times I got into fights, but um, you know, I had to work at everything. But I didn't want to be the tough guy. Well, everybody wants to be the goal scorer.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe the goal scorers want to be the tough guys. I don't know. I never had that privilege. So, you know, I always wanted to be the goal scorer. I always was working on my hands. Um, and just over time, I felt like I developed a good set of skills. I really, you know, hockey sense and hockey IQ will make up for a ton of things that you don't do on the ice. Just knowing the right play to make, and I really prided myself on being that guy. Um, as my career went on, I wasn't a Stevie Y kind of guy. I was more of like a Wendell Clark kind of guy. I like to kind of tout myself after that guy. And but yeah, nothing ever came naturally. Hockey was my worst sport. I was good at everything else, but because of the skating and hockey, it took me the longest to get there, and it was work, nonstop work, and you know, I never thought I'd end up where I did.
Did you play multiple sports growing up?
I played everything,
Yeah. Do you think that's
everything.
important for kids nowadays, especially to do that?
I think it's important that they pick wisely. I definitely don't agree with sticking with just one sport.
Mm-hmm.
Um, over Overdoing it is a huge problem I see in minor sports right now. You know, a kid going from this to that to this. I try to stick to one, maybe two sports in a season for my kids, and but it's definitely important to play everything. I mean, baseball, you develop an unreal hand-eye coordination. Well,
Mm-hmm.
hockey, you need unreal hand-eye coordination.
Yeah.
And baseball will teach you things that you don't do in hockey all the time, and vice versa. And you know, soccer, which I call for conditioning. Soccer will get your legs going. Um, there's just so many things, and every one of them has that common denominator of camaraderie, brotherhood, friendship, teaching you social skills that you might not develop in the outside world. So there's so many benefits to sports, and then multiple sports I think are important for sure.
Yeah, and I think you said that. You said that right. You definitely get a lot more other things than the sport itself when you go play those other sports. Now, when you said that, I like how you said that because was your parents kind of how were they on you when you were a kid? Like, did they promote those extra sports, or was that something that your buddies did and you kind of followed them? And now, like, you're a father and you're doing this to your kids. Like, are you almost thankful that all kind of worked out for you when you were a kid?
Yeah, I definitely appreciated that my parents let me play other sports. Now, if it was up to Dad, he never would have let me play football. That's for sure. But he ended up letting me do it, and you know, they were at every event. They never told me to back off of anything. Maybe they were just happy I was out of the house, not bugging them. But you know, they I played everything.
Hey Marco, what just kind of going back to that youth and the upbringing. I've met your old man a couple times, you know, old school Italian. What were those like pressures like and expectations? Like was that something you battled early on or did you like feed off it or what was it like coming up, you know, as a minor hockey player to those AAA levels, you know, just from a parental and pressure standpoint?
It was tough. You know, Dad had a lot of expectations on me. I had an older brother that, and I probably didn't realize it at the time, but he wasn't. He didn't have the size gift that I had, and I was much more athletic than him. So Dad was harder on me, definitely coming up, and I mean all the way through pro. I think I told you some stories, G, about the old man coming to some pro games and giving me a dirty look after a bad period. And, I'm sitting there thinking, shit, I'm playing pro, man. But anyways.
Hey, we have some time for this. Do you mind sharing a story? We love stories on this podcast.
So, oh shit, he's gonna hear it, but that's all right. So all the way when I played, anywhere I played, the old man always stood where our team would leave the ice, and I could always tell if I had a good period, because if we're leaving the ice and he's clapping his hands, I'm in the good graces, And sometimes I'd leave the ice and he wouldn't even be looking at me, and I'd be like, "Oh fuck!" And you'd always hear it after the game, "Fuck you! You turned it on in the third period there, but you sucked in the first, man, or you got roasted there. What happened in the first there? You got roasted." And playing against guys at the time like Peter Schaefer and Wade Red, and guys walk you, and you're thinking, "Dad, that guy was first overall last year, man." so he was pretty hard on me, but he was a young dad and he had high expectations, and I'm thankful he pushed me the way he did.
Yeah, and you said it right there, you're thankful. Now, obviously, nowadays it's either hit and miss. Maybe their mom or dad has played a sport and was somewhat successful in it. Now their kid, you see some prodigy in them. You see a kid that's a natural talent. And those car ride homes after a hockey game, even after a practice. Now, you said your dad was hard on you. Now, was it hard for you to handle that when you were going through it? Because you said your dad was hard on you. Now, was he yelling at you in the car ride home? How did you handle that? And what's something that you could say to a parent, I guess you could say, or even a kid, if a parent is kind of going over the top on the car ride home? Because you and I both know, man, there's a lot of parents out there that are snapping on their kids.
Yeah, the car ride home with dad sometimes would be tough, especially, early on in my career, I was a stick work king, because like I said, I had slow feet. So I'd be chopping guys and getting penalties and getting suspended. I had a bad temper. I'd be breaking sticks and, doing all the shit that you wish you didn't do. I wish I'd handled it differently, but yeah, car rides home, he was pretty quiet and a comment here and there. But you always knew he was pissed. I wish now that he didn't make it so important. Say our piece and move back on to being just me and dad, And again, to no fault of him. I mean, he's 25, 30-year-old guy raising a kid in a country he just moved to himself. So, I think he did the best he could and probably did with the tools he had available to him. But for parents on the ride home, my advice is move on quick. Get it out. I coach my kids' baseball team. I tell them all the time, the first 3 minutes in the truck after the game is me being coach, and then after that, I'm done with it.
I love that.
And we're moving on. We're moving on to what we do in life, because let's face it, at the end of the day, we're not raising superstars here. One out of a million. We're raising men. We're raising adults. We're raising humans for the next generation, and belittling them and telling them they suck, or you need more time in the cage, or you need to be on the ice more. That's not the time, especially after they just had a disappointing performance, or shit, they might not even know they were a disappointing performance until they got to the car. They might have thought they had a great game and had a fun time, and they get to the car, and next thing you know, dad's up their ass. So, I would just say to parents, say your piece, move on, and read the fucking room. If the kid's upset, give them some time. They're a kid, man. Let them work through some emotions. And for God's sakes, don't belittle the kid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure, man. You brought up some good points there, and very relatable. Like we talked about your old man, like in the hallway there near where you guys came off. Just sometimes the body language, right? Like words didn't even have to be spoken, and we knew we were, in the doghouse, so to speak, right? And I remember that impacting me as a kid. And yeah, it's cool that you get, it's almost like we get to take that experience that we had growing up and then try to do it differently, or take some of the strengths and then add our own structure to that parenting style. So good on you, man. But I wanted to ask, like, what was it like when were you drafted to the WHL, or did you walk on to PA? What did that look like? And like, had you feel you'd arrived, or was there different pressures coming up for you then when you hit the major junior ranks? What was that time in your life like, from an adjustment standpoint?
So honestly, it was kind of a surprise the way things happened because I had been last picked, pretty much for my AAA teams, my AA teams that I had growing up in minor hockey. I never really had a high expectation. I didn't get drafted. No dub teams reached out and talked to me. When I was 16 years old, I went to a Winnipeg South Blues Junior A tryout, and I was 16. I got into a fight with some guy. I fucking stroked him. He was a lefty. We come off the ice. They say that's the toughest guy in the league. And all of a sudden, I felt like, oh shit. Well, maybe there's something there. And I had a good camp. They didn't keep me around that year. I went back, played midget again. And then that summer, I kind of started to come into my own where I noticed that my skating was taking off. And my hands and guys couldn't hit me when they'd hit me. I'd go right through them. I was really starting to develop some good strength then. But I was undrafted. I think I got a letter to go to PA. And I went up there, and that was the year that let's see, I was 17. That was the year Chris Phillips was going to be he was the #1 pick that season, but he was highly prestigious player up there. And I went into camp and I just lit it up. I showed up in camp scoring goals, beating up their tough guys. And I hadn't even really realized the gravity of what I was doing yet. I didn't even realize that I was that step further ahead. I never thought I'd play junior hockey. I thought midget AAA, and I'd go play some beer league after that. I didn't know what I was going to do. But here, all of a sudden, you got a team that's like, yeah, we can't let you go. And now all of a sudden you're living away from home and all your buddies, and you're just thrown into it. And I wasn't ready for it. I wasn't ready for it.
Sorry to interrupt you, man, but it's really fascinating because you probably didn't have that much pressures on you because, like you said, you didn't know if you're going to make this team. You're going out there just playing your style, you're fighting, you're hitting, you're lighting it up, and now you're getting opportunity. Now, do you think that helped you out? You didn't have that much pressures, probably from mom and dad too, right? They probably weren't saying, man, you have something going for you down your throat or whatever, but you kind of just went in there black and white and saying whatever happens. Do you think that kind of helped you out rather than having that outside pressure?
I think it probably did in the very beginning, but then the pressure came quick. Once you realize, and people are making a big deal out of it, and you're getting a few articles in the paper, and people are showing up, and they know who you are. Like I said, I don't think I was very prepared for that step of my career. I was still pretty immature, making terrible decisions, as far as what I was doing with my free time, and if I had focused on my craft, what would it have been? I got a good story for you guys on that one. I'll tell it later on. It's the Brendan Morrow story. Remind me to tell it.
Perfect.
But anyways, the not having the pressure probably helped me going into that camp. But I think after that camp, I actually realized like where I was. I mean, I'm on the ice with these guys that are going to the show. There was a bunch of draft picks on the ice with us there. And then out of camp, I wasn't a listed player going into camp, and I had this great camp. A Portland Winterhawk scout was at our camp, at PA's camp, and they listed me right out of camp. So here I am. I just battled with all these guys to make this team. I'm going to make the team. And the coach sits me down. I'm thinking, fucking rights, he's giving me a billet. Here I go. I'm on this team. And all of a sudden, I get my heart broken for the first time. Pack your bags. You're going to Portland. They listed you out of camp. We didn't list you in time. And now I got to go across the country into another country to go to a team where these guys have all been battling each other for their spot. And now I'm the outsider coming in. Nobody knows me. I'm struggling to make buddies in the beginning. I don't want to fucking be there because I'm pissed off. I want to be back in PA. Like I said, I didn't have that maturity level yet to understand, like, hey, this is just part of the game, man. This is just, this is going to happen. And I wasn't at that level yet of maturity. And again, make some bad choices, run my mouth to the coach, and being an idiot and immature and not ready for the spot I was in. And I didn't do myself very many favors. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. and can relate to Deej, and I can probably both relate to that, man. Those just ill-equipped is always the best way I describe it for some of those junctures of my career, right? As it progressed. But so you battled in the dub for 3 or 4 years there, and then this I want to talk about this big season in the SJ. So were you a 20-year-old? Did you start in the dub that year? And then the 20-year-old rule got a hold of you, or how did you end up back in Estevan? And just let's talk a little bit about that season and how not just statistically, but just the impact you had as a player and with that club in Estevan.
So the year previous, I was in Saskatoon. I blocked a shot of all things and broke my wrist. 100 fights don't break a wrist or anything, but block one shot, broke my wrist. And they basically said, "Hey, you're not going to be back for 6 or 8 weeks. You're not going to be with us moving forward." So I went down that year. I went back down to Estevan. I think I played maybe another 20 or 30, maybe 20 games down there. My 19-year-old year. And then I had a pro tryout that next year before my 20-year-old season. So I was scheduled to go back to Estevan as a 20-year-old. I went to the U-Haul, Mohawk Valley Prowlers. Dave the Hammer Schultz was the coach there.
Wow.
And I made that team. But he said I wouldn't be in the starting lineup. And I said, man, I think it's probably better for my development if I go back, play my 20-year-old year. And then come back and start, trying my pro career out. He agreed. I went back to Estevan, and a few weeks it took me to kind of get the ball rolling, and things just started to kind of progress. Being a big physical presence in the Western Hockey League, you get a reputation. I played a little bit in the SJ before that already, so I had a reputation. I maybe tried to jump in a couple teams' benches, so you have a reputation. You do some stuff, and you become a fan favorite, and all of a sudden you got a reputation, and that spreads throughout the league. And I think a lot of times in my 20-year-old year, a lot of teams just wanted to let me sleep. Well, at that point, I was gifted and talented and fast and big and strong, and I'd been training, so another step up, right? And it just seemed like everything came easy to me.
I was gonna ask you in your career now. Obviously, fighting's kind of shied away from the game and whatnot, but for back in the day, obviously it was important. You'd have 5 or 6 goons out there that would fight. How was it for you? You're obviously a bigger kid. It's kind of something you might have had to do just because of your presence on the ice. Like, did you love fighting? Now say you're playing the next night against a team and you're going down the roster, and were you one of those guys like, yeah, I'm going to be fighting this guy, or potentially I'm going to be fighting this guy tomorrow night? And like, how was your pregame naps, your sleep the night before? Were you good with that stuff?
I mean, I'll be honest, I never really liked fighting. I didn't dislike it, but I wasn't like, oh, I can't wait to get out there and fight. Like there were some donkeys out there. I won't name names, but they loved it and they lived for it. I wasn't that guy. I like playing hockey. I like to get out there. A lot of fights, I would rather they organically start versus, the square off at center ice and the big show. And I thought that was just for the fans. And don't get me wrong, I did it. But, as far as how I felt about the game, I like for it to start organically, maybe me run some guy from behind and somebody come jump me.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the way I like to get it done. I think it was a intricate part in my career to help set me apart from some of the guys that maybe were at the same skill level as I was, but you add that extra little thing, right? And that puts you a few steps above the other guys.
Yeah, and you said it seems to me, man, that your career is pretty good. Obviously in that 20-year-old year, you had obviously a lot of points and stuff, and you're kind of mentioning in there about you're away from the rink. Obviously, this is a mental health podcast and everything, Marco, and how you said you kind of made some choices away from the rink. Maybe something that you would take back. Is there anything that you need to share? Maybe something that you've done, maybe something that's kind of you've been thinking about that you wish, fuck, and the knowledge I know now that I'm older, growing up a bit, that, maybe I made a different decision. Something that you could share for these viewers, these kids listening, that maybe they don't need to feel alone. Because you and I both know, man, everyone makes mistakes, and some that we wish we could take back, but that's life. You know, we grow up and we learn from our mistakes. And is there anything that you need to share? Because I know you mentioned just sometimes away from the rink, you kind of made those wrong choices.
Yeah, I think that for the most part, you know, when it came to doing the team stuff, I was always 100% a team guy, on board, let's go. Now the extracurricular stuff, I always found myself going off with the guys that would party. The guys that were going out to get boozed, the guys that were going out to do whatever it was we were going to do. You know, I wasn't in the gym, which is probably where I should have been. But I wasn't eating right. I wasn't living right. I was, you know, I was showing up for practice and giving it my all and doing all that stuff. Off season, I'd train. But when it came to the off ice stuff, I always ended up with the guys that like to party. And then not that that's a bad thing. I mean, a lot of guys, that's just what it is, right? You're not going to go to that next level. You're there to have a good time. But I think that led to a lot of guys shortening their career, falling victim to addiction. I think that's where it starts. And yeah, I mean, if I could change anything, it would be, you know, not necessarily leaving with the other guys, but just having more strength in myself to say, you know what, that's not going to get me where I want to go. And that's really the truth of it. If you want to get where you want to go, you got to do the shit that it takes to get there. And if you're not going to get there. And you might go far, but you're gonna miss the mark because you're not doing exactly what you need to be doing. I mean, we talk about a guy like Sidney Crosby. I'm sure Sidney goes out and has a good time too, but he puts Sidney Crosby number one. You know, he puts his health and himself number one, his craft number one. And you know, I think a lot of times I put the party and the story number one, even though half the time you didn't remember the fucking story. So kind of like what you were talking about, you know, a lot of times you don't even remember the night before. You just know you went out and had a good time with the boys. And I guess now would be a pretty decent time for the Brendan Morrow story.
Yeah, let's hear it.
So I'm 17 and like I said, I got picked up by Portland. They send me out there. I get there and there's this 16-year-old kid, pretty good fucking skater, big guy, kind of like me. We're battling for a spot in the lineup every night. After practice is over, we typically do a workout circuit in the weight room. No problem. I'm there doing it with the boys. Boys all shower up. Everybody's going out. Hey, where are we going to get lunch? Where are we going to do it? I'll never forget it. I'm leaving the rink. All the boys are talking about where we're going, what we're doing. I look over. Brendan Morrow's on the bike. Brendan Morrow's on the bike. Every fucking day after practice, Brendan was on the bike. My ass was leaving, going to get lunch with the boys and see if we could chase some tail around town or do whatever it is that the boys were going to do. And there's Brendan over there riding the bike. One of us played in Oklahoma City. One of us was a Dallas Stars captain, Olympic gold medalist, junior gold medalist, Memorial Cup champion. And that's a difference maker. That's it right there. That the dedication, what it takes to get to that next level. That's something I tell my kids that story. I tell every kid I coach that story. And it's not, I'm not a bad person for not doing it. I'm just simply saying that's what it takes.
I love that. It's so true. I can remember back in the day, I was the same as you, and I'm sure Gio, you're kind of the same vote, you know, putting party in first. I think there's a lot of kids, especially moving away from home, moving tons of miles away from home, and they just need to fit in with a teammates and stuff. You might not necessarily drink. Yeah, you might have a good time every now and again, but it's important for athletes to fit in with the crew, you know, and with the older guys or whatever, and they go out and party, then yeah, like you said, it might be an addiction in the long run and whatnot. But I just remember there would be guys when I was playing in the dub or even junior, there'd be guys doing that extra work. And I remember, I don't know if it was almost like shaming them. It's like, fuck, why are you doing that, dude? Like, why aren't you coming to hang out with us? You know what I mean? And it was like that half a second, like thinking to myself, I should be doing that, but fuck, I'll be okay. Then I'll go out and party. Did you guys feel that way too?
Yeah, I did for sure. And I just relate to everything Marco just said, right? Like, I think there was this recognition of like, I had the skill set and the work ethic, and I like believed in myself, especially like prime of my career, right? Late junior, early pro career. but it was never a priority of like, oh, I need to put this extra work in if I want to get to the next level like that. And I regret it to some level, because who knows, right? But yeah, but you always, every team I played on, there was those guys, they were grinding, and yeah, not all of them made the NHL, but I think they gave themselves the best chance to perform at their best level nightly. And just, coaches, scouts, people hear that goes on, that stuff, that's not just game situation type work ethic, right? And yeah, I didn't necessarily have that. I was more of a guy that just, once the puck dropped, that's when
For
I'm gonna
sure.
fully show up, right?
And you always talk about that player's guilt too, right? Like,
Yep.
you can do whatever you want away from the rink, but when you show up to practice, show up to games, you play with that player's guilt. You want to play extra good, so no one will find out what you did that morning or the night before when you're up all night partying, right? So thanks for sharing that, man. I think that's important, especially for athletes, putting that extra work, because you guys know hockey's changed, and she's wild out there. A lot of leagues, a lot of academies, that's one word to really say it, right? If you want that extra edge, you got to be putting that extra work. And
I think something else that we shouldn't miss here is that not only are you're not putting in the work, and you're out with the boys, and you're not taking care of your body. I mean, your tempo, right? But that reputation follows you.
Yep.
Doesn't take much for a couple of guys that, fuck, Marco likes to party, man. I'd go play somewhere, and guys would be on the ice, and, hey, guys staying in town tonight? Heard you like to party. And so that reputation follows you, and the players aren't the only ones that hear it. Maybe there's some scouts there that are looking at a game, they like your game, they're like, oh no, I heard about that guy. We don't need that problem. We don't, even if it's not a problem, they're saying we don't need to even explore that problem.
Yeah,
So
that's good. It's good that you said that. Yeah, I love that, because I do work with athletes, and when I talk to a lot of scouts nowadays, a lot of coaches in junior, and they'll make phone calls to the kid's high school principal to ask how that kid is as a person. They don't care about how he is. They know how he is on the ice,
Yep.
but how is he doing away from the rink? And that hockey world is such a small world, man, and obviously when you're going through it, when you're that age, you think you're invincible. Well, fucking that hockey world's so small, and just a flick of a switch, your career could turn downwards just because of that one simple decision, right? I like to ask Marco, I want you to tell me, it could be in your WHL junior career or whatever, but how was your rookie party? Do you remember it?
Yeah, I remember it. Honestly, I'd been on a couple of different teams as a rookie, and I've seen some stupid shit. But when you're the guy that everybody's looking to defend him, I feel like I always kind of got it taken easy on me a little bit. Nobody wanted to fuck too hard with me, and I appreciate that. Thanks, guys. If anybody's listening out there, appreciate that, guys. But for the most part, I mean, I was never on a team that went way too overboard, did really stupid stuff. But I heard a lot of shit over the years that I sure was worried my first year of junior. I was like, oh my God, am I going to have to do that? Or is that coming? But yeah, I mean, it was mostly boozing. Mostly boozing and getting the rookies wasted. Oklahoma City here, they dressed me up like a girl. I still have the picture. I'm not a good looking woman. I'll tell you that right now. But for the most part, good fun. But that was kind of that era where there were fucking horror stories out there.
Yeah, and you always do. And I think they've gotten better nowadays, especially I think there's more people know what's going on, and they know. I think it's just gotten a lot better, because back in the day, I know how to get butt naked in front of a party of 300 people. Those warm Colt 45 beers taped to my hands, chugging them and stuff. Yeah, I think it's gotten a lot better, but it's just crazy looking back, and that's why I like asking those questions, because you always hear those horror stories on rookie parties. But we're going to have a quick little break here. This episode of AFTR is proudly sponsored by the Mental Health Classic Hockey Tournament. This isn't just hockey, it's about bringing families, athletes, and communities together to start real conversations about mental health. It's about showing young athletes they're not alone, and that it's okay to talk about whatever they are going through. Sign up your son or daughter for Saskatoon August 8th and 9th or Kindersley August 15th and 16th at mentalhealthclassic.ca. That's mentalhealthclassic.ca. Let's hit the ice, have fun, and make a real impact on and off the ice.
Great. So welcome back to the After Away from the Rink podcast, and our guest, Marco Cefalo. Want to touch on that pro career, Marco. You go down to Oklahoma City. You know, I'm a former player there as well, played there after you did, pre-Oklahoma City Thunder. So, we were the only show in town, man. It was a big deal playing down there, right? Filling up the Ford Center. And what was that like initially? And the title run. And then I just kind of want to transition into, having your first child and what that looked like towards the end of the pro career. Yeah. What did life look for you at that stage, brother?
So I had the big 20-year-old year there. I had signed a contract with Oklahoma City, I think right before the playoffs had started that season. So I knew I was coming down. I knew I had a spot to lose. And yeah, I came down 9/9 of 99. So, sick calendar date to remember. It was also 99 degrees Fahrenheit in Oklahoma City. So it was one of those days. It's just like, holy shit. Hard for me to forget. But yeah, I came down here. Immediately I recognized that I wasn't going to be a 40-goal guy. At the pro level, 3 lines with an extra forward. So you're battling to stay in the lineup every night. It's not like you got a 4-line team where all you got to do is be tough and you're going to play. So, it kind of forces you to be a player. But yeah, I came down here. I was excited. I was, pumped up. I came down here in pretty good shape and learned pretty quickly what hockey meant to the Oklahoma City fans. And at that time, it was fucking everything.
Yep.
I mean, these people showed up in droves, tailgating, partying. I mean, during the game, chanting, loud atmosphere. It was an NHL atmosphere at a AA level. And I'll never forget it. I'll never not be thankful for that opportunity. It's really one of the things that hooked me. When I was talking to the scout, his name was Jim Peterson. He showed me a video of Oklahoma City's playoff run a couple years before, and there was 12,000 fans going bananas. And I'm thinking, those guys are gonna love me. Those guys are gonna love me, running people over, tilting, scoring goals. They're gonna love me. So I made that choice. I came here, and they did. They fucking love me here. I love them. But again, you get a few years into your career, you get comfortable. I was running around with some of the wrong people, making bad choices, not continuing to better myself in my craft, and that cuts a guy's career short. And then I came into camp one year real out of shape, like 25 pounds overweight. Hadn't been on the ice in probably since the last game we lost out in the playoffs. Coach was pissed off. He said, "Well, you're not going to be on the starting roster. You got a month to get in shape." Again, bad decisions. My ego gets involved. I say, "Screw you guys. I'm going to go play in Laval in the Quebec League." I went up there. I went for money, all the wrong reasons. I went up there and played in Laval for a little bit, and absolute shit show in that place. Fights every night, 4 or 5 tillies a night. Guys like Link Gates, Patrick Cote, Joel Terrio, Chad Richards. I mean, there were so many guys, Dan Kopech, Matthew Raby. These guys were all NHL tough guys. I mean, it was shit show every night, and that's what was expected. It wasn't hockey. It was a show. And I left there, ended up getting my wife at the time pregnant. I came back to Oklahoma City. I was playing there. We went from, I think, 4th place to 1st place in the 10 or 15 games I played. And then I think my lifestyle choices had got the better of me, and they traded me that year to New Mexico. And I said no. I wasn't going. My wife was pregnant. I was going to ride it out the rest of the season, and then maybe go back the next year, go try out somewhere else, play somewhere else. A lot of teams wanted me to go play there, but at the time, my wife was Oklahoma City girl, so I didn't want to leave. Pregnant, having a kid. June rolls around. He wasn't due for a couple more months. She ended up getting real sick. My first son was born. He was 2 pounds, 7 ounces, and spent 62 days in the NICU. During that time, they notified me and my wife at the time that he had Down syndrome. And man, that was pretty devastating blow for me there. Really a dark couple days in my life where, I had so much joy and hope. And, I'm 25 years old maybe. And I'm getting ready to have this son, bring him into the world. I'm going to get a chance to be this dad. And you hear a diagnosis like that and you're just fucking crushed. You don't know what's coming. You don't know what to expect. You don't know how to deal with it. Really dark couple days there for me. I wear a cross every day of my life pretty much. Up until that point, I ripped it off. I threw it down in the hospital. I was giving up, I thought that I thought I'd lived a better life, and I felt pretty stabbed in the back. But what I didn't realize is that that was actually something that probably saved me and made me transition out of the game into real life and grow up real fucking fast. I knew he was going to need a dad. I knew he was only 2 pounds when he was born, so I didn't know when the hell he would walk. I didn't know when he was going to be able to come out of the hospital. I mean, I'm 25-year-old idiot at this point,
Yeah.
We got him out of the hospital. It took, he didn't walk for almost 2 years. They told us he'd never talk. He still doesn't talk. We do sign language. But yeah, it helped me grow up pretty quick. And I give him credit for probably saving me, sparing me a hard transition out of playing hockey, because like you guys talked about, that's all I did. That was my identity. I was hockey player. I was Marco Cefalo, the hockey player.
Yep.
And now all of a sudden I was Marco Cefalo, the former hockey player, the dad who's going to raise a disabled child. And I didn't have a clue what the hell I was doing. But all I remember is I promised myself and I promised him that I'd do everything I could to give him the best life I could. And I feel like since that day, I've delivered.
Wow.
That's crazy, man.
Thanks for
sharing
that,
dude.
Marco. That's inspiring stuff, man. Now I just wanted to ask you a question. When you were going through it, when you just found out about Jackson and his diagnosis, were you talking to anybody, or did you even think about asking for help? Because you're going into the unknown, right? You're still playing hockey, and this happens. Did you ask for? Were you talking to anybody at that time, or was it something that you kind of did on your own?
No, I at that point in time, I was 25. My ego was still huge. And I didn't really know how to talk to anybody about it, or tell anybody how I was feeling. Luckily, my former mother-in-law, she picked up my chain that my grandmother had given me when I was a baby. She picked it up and gave it back to me several months later after she had it repaired. Always thankful to her for that. But man, I didn't have really anybody to talk to, and I didn't really know anybody in that community that would, jump out at me and be like, I can talk to this person, and that's going to help. And I mean, in all honesty, it would have been a great help for somebody to be there and be like, hey man, it's going to be all right. It's going to get through it. I didn't know shit. I just knew that no matter what, I wasn't throwing in the towel. I wasn't throwing in the towel on this kid. And I was going to give him the best life I could.
Yeah. And I like how you said you saved your life, you
Yeah.
know? That is some powerful stuff, because there's a lot of people out there, and myself included, when I was going through it, is you go through adversities, but you're too scared of asking for that help. Or even like you said, Marco, I was the same way when I came out to my parents about my drug and alcohol problem. I didn't know how to talk. And I liked how you said that, because it's, and you know, you still had that ego, you're still a hockey player, and maybe there's a sense of you, Marco, where I ain't asking for help. I don't want people to think I'm weak. I don't want people to think, Marco, myself, I can't handle this. But you know, and all of a sudden you thought something that was so awful, Marco, turned into probably the best thing that's ever happened to you.
Yeah, it definitely it changed me, right? It helped sculpt me into a mature man, where I probably before I was, I was a man, but I mean, I hadn't really faced adversity like that. I haven't really been face to face with what the fuck are you going to do? He changed me, right? I realized right away, like, this isn't going to be a typical kid that I can just, at 2 years old, we're going to be hitting the rink and he's going to be following dad around and doing whatever the hell I want to do. And we're going to be fishing and hunting and doing all those things. And it changed. The future became so uncertain for me. Um, it really would have helped to have somebody there to be like, hey man, you need anything, you lean on me, man. And, I'm here to help. Um, but I think a lot of it was just not educated, and pride, man. Pride will keep you from asking for help. And we got to get past that. We got to get past thinking somebody's going to think less of me. Like you said, like I'm this big, tough guy that could do anything, It didn't seem like I was afraid of anything, but I was afraid.
Yeah.
I was afraid of being a new dad. I was afraid of raising a kid with special needs, and I didn't know what the future looked like. And I pretty much adopted the mindset, a coach of mine, right? One shift at a time, one play at a time. And it was just one day at a time. I took it, and, here we are. Jax will be 23 in June, and lives with me full time, and he'll live with me until my last day. And he's a great kid. He's got younger siblings that he loves, and they love him. And what a lesson he is for them in compassion and kindness and triumph, and just what I tell him all the time. You guys think you had a bad day? Look at your brother. He can't communicate with people. He can't tell people what he wants, but he still gets her done. He's still a happy kid, and it's incredible for my younger kids as well.
Wow, good for you. I'm proud of you, man. That's life,
Thanks,
eh?
man.
I liked how you said too that you kind of wish you had someone that would have asked if you were okay back then when you were going through it, Marco. Now you were so good at hiding your weakness, hey? Just like you said, right? You're
Yeah.
a tough guy, and you probably yourself, you didn't want anyone to think that you self can't handle this stuff. Now, here's a question for you. Now, looking back and when this all happened, maybe there's someone is going through this. Might not be your exact story, or maybe there's something that is going on with their life and they're too scared to speak up. They're too of shame, guilt, or whatever it may be. What's something that you could tell somebody that maybe is going in your shoes and too scared to speak up?
Never be afraid to let people know if you're struggling. I mean, whatever the struggle is, no matter how small or big, it always helps to reach out and talk to people. And the older I get, obviously, here I am, 47 years old, staring down 50 here pretty quick. But it's so evident that if I had somebody reach out, or I had somebody to reach out to, it would have been so much easier on me to be able to process it and move through it in a more, I don't know about saying, probably mature manner, to be able to handle my emotions and my feelings. And and it wasn't easy. I mean, it's not like he was born and I was like, oh shit, I'm gonna start a business and now I got money and everything's great. Fuck that. I drank. I did drugs. I did lots of stuff to hide from the feelings I had. Like I said, it was a devastating day for me. I mean, you grow up your whole life thinking that you're gonna raise a kid, and this kid is gonna follow you, and you're gonna fix all the shit that you didn't do when you were young, and now you're like, I can't fix shit. And now I have a totally new challenge that I don't know shit about. And it was a lot. It was a lot. And I was in a marriage with somebody that we were young when we got married. We probably shouldn't have been married, and battling that as well. And again, not having people to talk to. I was down here alone. I didn't have any family. I had stepped away from playing hockey. I didn't stay in touch with the hockey guys because I was embarrassed. I was embarrassed that I had left the game the way I did, and the choices I had made. So I didn't maintain those contacts and friendships, and it was tough. It was a tough few years there.
Do you remember now? Thank you for sharing that. This is super important stuff.
Yep.
Especially the shame and guilt with your teammates. You kind of left them, started doing drugs and alcohol to numb that pain. Now, do you remember, Marco? Because obviously you're doing awesome now. Obviously, there's challenges one day at a time. Do you remember a time during that time where you did ask for help? Or did you ask for help? Is there a time where you kind of shed some light and started being open? Is there a time that changed you? Was there a certain situation in your life or during that journey where now you kind of accepted everything?
It was probably when I was going through my divorce from my first wife. My life had fallen apart at that point. Everything that I thought was going to be something was nothing. My life was in shambles. I was having to start all over again. My ex-wife had a set of her own problems that she had to deal with. Uh, Thankfully, she's on the backside of those. But anyways, I wish that I had reached out and talked to somebody and just said, "Hey, man, I'm really struggling here." Like at one point, I was I was living in a warehouse, running my heat and air company. I was living in about 120 square foot room. I had built a shower in there, didn't have a drain. I had to pump the water out, and I was at a pretty low point. And that's when I started to reach out and talk to some people. I reconnected with a couple of old teammates. There was a couple other guys around that a good buddy of mine that I ended up moving in with for a little while. I reached out to him and we talked about it. And I was so full of shame and guilt at that point, still from the last 10 years, and I think it just compounded. Um, and then one day, my one buddy, I was talking to him and I was talking to him about my situation and what a piece of shit I thought I was. And he stopped me and he said, "Hey, man," said, "you're the only fucking person that thinks that about you."
Wow.
And I'll never forget that.
Yeah, no, I love that. The biggest thing why we started this podcast, Marco, was to be vulnerable and to have guests on like yourself, Image, you being a fighter, you playing that good hockey, people not necessarily know like a man like yourself crying, right? And this is why I start this podcast, man, and I'm proud of you. I don't even know you personally, but I think I've got to know who the person you are today, and I'm proud of you, man. And I'm a big believer that we have to go through stuff in life to find who we are. And people, places, things come at you at the right time, man. You got a lovely wife, beautiful kids, and you went through a lot. You went through it silently. There was nothing about mental health growing up, and you had to do it on your own. Now that you're more vulnerable and stuff, one last question for you, Marco. Has there been anything in your life where someone has asked you for help? Everything that you kind of been through, now you're being vocal, now you're telling your teammates, you're telling your friends and whatnot, now your story's out there, now you don't feel alone. Now, have you had any stories of maybe someone coming up to you and asking for your advice because you're vulnerable now?
100%. I put that out there to all my friends. I've got a few friends that are going through some things in their lives, and I think it's super important for people to realize that when you reach out, you're not just reaching out for somebody to tell you what to do. You're reaching out for somebody to hold you accountable to yourself, because that's it, right? If you hold yourself accountable to yourself, it doesn't fucking matter if somebody's like, "Hey, you've been drinking today," and you're like, "No, no, no." It matters if you wake up every day and say, "I'm not going to drink today because I'm not going to do that." And when I talk to my buddy today, I'm going to be able to tell him, "Hey, man, still doing great. Hey, man, still on the wagon, you know." But yeah, I have friends currently that are going through addiction problems and some personal life problems that reach out to me frequently and ask me for advice, which, for the 20-year-old donkey in me is like, "Are you guys fucking dumb? You're asking me for advice?" But the 47-year-old man, says, "You know what? You've lived it. You've been through it. you can offer these guys some help and help hold them accountable to themselves. No judgment.
For sure, man. Marco, just moving into present day, and I know some of the adversities you faced more recently, man, just over the last 2-3 years. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you guys pretty much lost everything in a house fire. And I just, I know you're back in your new home now, but like what did the last 2-3 years look like, man? That's arguably your one of your biggest adversities, and just tackling that as a family. What was it like, man? And how is it feeling to, finally be on the other side of that?
Man, it's whew, it was a struggle, man. I lit a fire in the fireplace just like I'd done 100 times before, and that one was the one that escaped the chimney box and went into the attic. And you're standing across the street and your house is just burning to the ground. We didn't save anything. I had to carry Jax out of the house. Jax didn't know what was going on. He's nonverbal. He didn't understand what was happening. He's wearing boxers and a t-shirt, and I'm trying to drag him out in -20 temperature, and he's like, "No, bud." So I fireman carried him out and carried him across the street to the neighbor's house. Rescued my dogs out of the house. One of the dumb bastards ran back in. I had to go get him again. And then you just kind of sit there and you watch, and you just are hoping that they can get this thing to stop. And it slowly burned its way from the west side of the house through the east side of the house. And you're seeing the house fall in on itself. And it's just so devastating. And in that moment, I remember thinking to myself, you are so lucky to have your family out of there. And that's the difference, I think, in where I used to be, where I would look and see tragedy, and all I could think of was how fortunate I was, how lucky I was. Nobody got hurt. We lost everything. The insurance company didn't even go in the house. They stood outside and said, "You lost everything." Now I've got a family who's traumatized. And we lived in this little Airbnb, wasn't real big. And I think that was probably really good for us to be so held close together. We all slept in the same room for probably 6 months. Pretty quick, the wife and I decided that we weren't going to let this define us as tragic. We were going to turn this into triumph. And that's what we did. We got to work. We started finding out what it was going to take to get our house rebuilt. And we decided we were going to build our own house. And took 23 months, and we finally got back in. And all I can think of today is what a fucking opportunity it was to lead my family through the darkest time, and to come out on top and show my kids that it doesn't mean shit. All that stuff doesn't mean anything. Material is nothing when it comes to what you have really in life. And here we are at the other end. I'll never not be thankful for that opportunity.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing that. That is huge. And it's crazy when a big scene like that happens in your life, and everything that you kind of been through kind of geared you up for that event. And the way you said that you kind of took the beauty out of it, that your family was safe, and you're not thinking the mindset you were when you're a little younger. Maybe you would have handled it a little different, but everything that you've been through and everything that you handled in life kind of geared you up for that moment. And wow, this is what it's all about, is having conversations like this. Marco, I could probably talk to you for about a week and a half straight, but we got our time's running out here. But hey, man, I just want to thank you for coming on and shedding some light on your story, your journey, and talking about some real stuff. We're not like an average hockey podcast where we bring on talk about careers and fights and all that. We want to know what goes on away from the rink, because I think there is a lot of athletes out there that are struggling, and hearing stories from guys like yourself, being an enforcer out there and showing no weakness when you played, and now you kind of shed some light on that. It kind of made me feel good and inspired. Yeah, no, this is awesome. Appreciate it, Marco. That is episode 3 of the After Away from the Rink podcast. This is exactly why we do it. We're bringing on current, former athletes who have been there and can shed some light on mental health, because we all know mental health is a thing. There is 1 out of every 3 kids that are struggling with mental health right now, man. one of every 3 kids are struggling with mental health, and we could shed some light, share some stories, and make these kids feel that they're not alone, that could be a big game changer. Because I'm a big believer, and I always say it the day I got sober, is people who've walked in people's shoes, who have been there, who has life experience. That is the ticket to be helping people that are struggling. So the more voices, the more vulnerability, the more stories we hear, that everybody here is going to shed light on some mental health. So Marco, thank you so much for coming on, brother. Proud of you, man. And keep doing what you're doing, dude. And it's awesome about your family and everything. This is a feel good podcast. So thanks again, Marco.
Yeah,
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.